highest property tax.
Sales tax.
Here.
What is budget?
Market auto parts.
Yeah.
Horizon total sources. Southern Link, and that is the gas station across the street.
Must be a pretty good gas station. Must sell a lot of other stuff, cause there's no tax on it.
Right, it's gonna be snack drinks.
I wonder how, when they get that new gas station in with Whataburger, if they'll jump on it. Is it a good sign that Amazon is your highest?
They're two of the top three,
Top three,
so.
Amazon. I'm pretty sure that 90% of that's coming off the compound too.
We're not in the city, so. City sales.
Every day I get home, there's 8 packages.
How are you?
You may be in the Swiss County list.
Hey, is this seat taken? No, it is not.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How about you? Good to see you. Maria Davin. Hey, Maria, I'm Jerry. Jerry, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too.
Good to see you.
And we have lunch across here, it's Chick-fil-A.
So Charles is not here.
He's not here yet, this time for him.
Everybody want to talk about a hotel for me in town?
Now, is there
No,
an
he's doing
EDC staff?
Residential development right now, so
Okay.
that's,
That's good. Oh, okay.
we wear dual hats, multiple hats actually.
I
Yes.
can tell.
Yes. Leslie actually serves right now as our EDC director, as well as city manager.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
It is.
Wow.
Texted him that he didn't need to call me. Should I call him? Like I said, it's usually, it's very usual. And John is usually meeting on time at 10. I don't have, I don't have a number for John just to text him.
You know, just run into Lowe's.
You can't just walk in there and change yourself.
Starbucks may be on here next month, though, or a couple months.
Huh?
Starbucks may be on here.
Maybe. That may be, I saw a short black car, so it's probably. Yeah, that'll be interesting to
Been
see.
quiet in your neck of the woods?
I wish it was.
It's the heat now, right?
It's early heat.
Yeah, it is. It is awful.
If you remember last summer, it was very cold. But, so, some of the issues with the jury
Get it back.
Yeah,
that
So
we kind
we-
of did,
We're
you
gonna,
find them.
It's terribly
until
expensive.
Your system is stressed. We're starting to find some of those issues. So,
I don't know if you even see that.
it's not like,
we didn't.
Oh.
Don't worry, I'm charging it there. You're paying for it, don't worry.
Not like it helps.
until there's a lot of load on it, and then it'll just snap in half.
Consider it done.
Yeah,
And then you bring it over.
so moved.
Waiting to see.
It's a pretty good job.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at where we were
Now,
at.
are you John or
Tom.
Tom? You're Tom with Oncor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tom,
Oh, it is.
I was on, Peter and one of the stores.
Everything else is
CBS.
set.
And they
Combination of a
kept
couple
calling
of
me
days.
Tom from Oncor.
residential growth,
Now, remember what
it's
Tom from
sales
Oncor
tax sourcing
And
laws.
I started thinking, it's
You
like
know,
Jake from
change
State
in
Farm.
Yeah,
sales taxes.
That's a good way to
And then,
associate you.
COVID,
So
people got used
every time
to
somebody says, "Oh,
ordering
Or
more shopping
Oh
I'm
online.
like, oh, please tell me you weren't watching
Put it on
CBS.
the down. Or Tyler's just going through the roof,
Yeah.
stuff for all
I
the
know.
crazy.
Spoiling him.
You're the nicest person.
Not always, but thank you, Tom.
From Oncor.
I heard a statistic the other day that I think it was around 25% of the people that work in Smith County live further away than the counties adjacent to Smith County. So they're commuting across 2 county lines to work in Smith County.
Wow.
1/4 of the workforce.
That's a lot.
Really?
That's what Scott
I
Martinez
believe it.
was telling me the other day.
We've got 22 people in our office. And me, and 2 other people live in Tyler, city limits. We got Chandler, a couple White House, Glendale, Brownsboro. I mean, it's just all over. We got a guy lives in Rusk, drives in
Yeah.
every day.
When you think about it, if you live outside of Smith County, you almost have to commute. for
Yeah.
employment.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we saw in the EOG office too.
It's like a
That's
mini
one thing.
metroplex.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'll talk about a little bit, is what Wilson was learning is, and he comes from the transmission side of the business. So he's learning a little bit. But he said, your workforce is really how far people will travel to work where you are. It's not just in that city limits.
Right.
He said so many communities are just looking at workforce within the city limits when they're applying for projects and stuff like that. He said that's what the site selectors are telling cities is, no,
Yeah.
go an hour outside. Because that's how far people are willing to drive to be a small town.
So when we worked on the east side of Dallas, I mean, we had
Do what?
probably close to 50% of our staff commuted from 30 miles away or greater. I mean, it was.
You had to, up
Yeah.
there.
Well, yeah, you couldn't afford to live where we were working, so.
It's, when in Seagaville, we probably had a lot of people from Forney and Terrell coming in.
Yeah.
Just wild.
You can tell
There's-
the flow of traffic on 110 every day is just like, so you know they're coming from somewhere.
There's a lot of people from here going that way. I go towards Jacksonville, so it's empty.
Yeah, yeah.
On the other side of the road, it's,
Is Mr. Mullins gonna be here today?
No,
Okay.
not today. Jerry, we're usually very punctual.
Yes.
And almost always start this meeting right at straight up noon,
yes.
so Charles is just running a little bit late today, which is uncharacteristic of him.
It is, very. Told me about 5 minutes ago, so he should be here any minute.
And I don't think what we have to cover will take a full hour today, so.
No problem.
What's the time of year our park gets really busy? Had field trips over there all week. I can hear them screaming.
have y'all, have we ever sent anybody to, on those California trips or anything like that with other people? For, like, going to some of these economic development deals to like Illinois or California or anything like that?
No, not yet.
Because a lot of times they can go with
Hey,
that.
Charles.
Hey guys, how's everybody? Sorry.
Because we usually send
I
people.
kind of moved everything, Charles. I thought we'd have one more, so I was putting you in the middle, so your gavel and everything's one in the middle. That's all you.
Well, since I was late, agenda, do you have one of those somewhere? I didn't print mine out before I left the office.
I'm afraid I don't.
I had that one phone call,
Sorry.
client,
What are you gonna do?
yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Good to talk.
Take the call.
Take the call. Okay, y'all ready? Okay, I'd like to call to order the Economic Development Corporation meeting for the City of White House, Texas, May 12th, 2022. The time is 12:10. Susan, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Bob Breedlove.
Here.
Charles Parker.
Here.
Ernie LaFleur.
Here.
John Chambers. Maria Davenport. Here. Tom Trimble.
Here.
And Jerry Aiken.
Here.
We have a forum.
Great. Presentations. Well, no, we'll start, I guess, with the consent agenda, and I'd like to make note that we have a new member here.
Yes, we do.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to have you. You want to tell us a little about yourself? I hate to put you on the spot.
Oh, I have a little bio. Well, I'm currently working for a real estate brokerage, office manager in Tyler, and but I do have some background in economic development, so I was happy to see this. This has been a few years, but it's the kind of thing that has always been exciting to me. So I'm happy to be of service on anything that, as I understand, our staff is overworked. So anything that I can help with, I'm happy to do it.
Well, that's great. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We've been at this for a little while, but we're still getting our feet wet. Because, you know, we just a little background is that we passed a portion of the state of this half-cent sales tax to begin funding this. And so while we don't have a lot of money yet, we are slowly building that bank account up. And so some of the things that you're going to hear about as we go through them today is, you know, part of the building process. And so that's what we're trying to do is get the ball started more or less. And that's what we've had a lot of conversations about over the last year and a half or so. So anyway, with that said, again, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of minutes for the EDC meeting from April 14, 2022.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Item C is presentations. Oncor Economic Development Director.
Wilson Peppard is our new EDC, EcoDevo, is what we call it, director in Dallas. He was going to be here, but on Friday, right after Susan sent out the agenda, he called me and said, "I'm so sorry." He got called into a site visit in our territory. I can't say more than that, but it's a very large project that they basically, the governor's office said, we want everybody and their dog there, so go. And if it would have been in White House, he would have shut it down. Everything he was doing had been here for us too. But he did talk to me a little bit about kind of what he was going to talk about is how, you know, what's going on in the state right now. He's working with the governor's office. Usually they run about 100 to 150 projects at a time, and right now they're going at 250. 40 of those are over $1 billion in the state of Texas. It is just booming everywhere. The biggest hindrance that he's hearing from site selectors and people like that are acreage. trying to find 500-600 acre tracts to build mega projects on. So land is the big concern for a lot of these folks, and trying to get that land and put things on. But he's been traveling, and he's been in California, he's been in Illinois, Austin, all over, talking to folks to see how we can help. He's got a real focus on rural communities as well in Texas. That's kind of where he wants to drive our help for our rural communities. What can we do to help? One of those is going to be at some point in time doing. In big cities, they do economic development seminars. And I think we've talked about this before, but he is going to make it happen, where we bring these economic development experts and everything out to our rural communities to where they are, invite them all in. Oncor pays for it, brings EDC boards, city councils, whoever wants to come, sit down in a big venue and talk to them about economic development and what we can do to help. There's a lot of talk at these events about regionalism, using, instead of one town going for everything, partnering with other towns to say, hey, we've got houses, hey, we've got workforce, hey, we got land, and going in as a group, kind of like what Tyler did with Sanderson Farms, with Lindale and Mineola, I believe. So just kind of taking that approach, and there's a lot of the site selectors are looking into that. Hey, what area do they have everything? It might not be in the same town, but can they partner together with other people? So the other thing he talked to me about, and he was going to talk about, is some of the things that are hindering economic development, and especially in East Texas, in this area, and especially with technology companies. And there's an article that he sent me on patent trolls, and I didn't know anything about this. And the East District Court in Texas is a hotbed for these patent trolls to sue big companies. And those big companies have decided, we're just not going to put anything in this Eastern District. And so it's caused a lot of the tech companies to try to avoid this area. And I actually printed off a map of the East District, and so you can see the size of the area that's being avoided, and we're right in the middle of it.
Wow.
So he said that's a big hindrance right now for large companies coming in, but it's something that they're trying to fight, trying to do whatever we can to help the stigma. But I think in the article, Justice Alito called the court, what he called them, a renegade jurisdiction. And that's quoted out of the article, so that's not me just saying
Is that the
it.
Marshall office, or Marshall Federal Court, or the Tyler Federal Court?
Do it.
Is that out of the Marshall Federal Court or the Tyler Federal Court?
It's out of the Sherman, I believe, so.
So why do they target this individual so much?
I don't know. It doesn't really go into the ins and outs. It just says that a lot of the patent trolls, and I didn't, basically that's somebody that has a patent that is similar to what a big company has come out with.
Apple or somebody, yeah.
And a lot of them are frivolous lawsuits.
What happens is, what I've heard is that court is really quick about turnover. They run through their docket. And so, which is kind of what we
Patent
want.
troll, yeah.
But to a point, I guess, maybe.
Yeah,
And-
they're not,
And the fees are a lot less
Yeah.
than they are in other
Yeah,
jurisdictions.
so it's just something that they're
'Cause I know that
trying to
they had a
avoid.
lot of problems with
And
it.
it used to be you could file anything in the United States a patent, you could file it anywhere. So they just kept filing it here. So you'd have something that happened in Oregon, filed in Sherman, I guess. And then they had a ruling recently that said, no, unless it was manufactured here or built here or something, you gotta have some kind of standing in that area. You can't just file something from California here. So,
So that'll help, but he was just gonna go over a lot of that, and he's a lot more knowledgeable about that kind of stuff than I am, but he is going to come back. He really wants to get out to the East Texas area. He's got family out here. His in-laws live on Lake Tyler, so they're out here all the time, and so he's going to make the trip back out here. It's just one of those things where something came up and he couldn't say no. But we'll make it happen, I promise. I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay. Item D is public forum. I don't see anybody here.
No, sir.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip reading all that. Item E is agenda items. Number 1, discussion of business after hour events.
Okay, so when we left off, we decided that we were gonna do the second one at the Oak Crossing, so that's been booked. Right now, before the catering costs, we're about $2,400. And that's including for the TABA event fees, the rental of the facility, renting tables or linens, and then the approximate cost that TABA gave me for providing alcohol at the second function, and then everything in the first function. Door prizes, those are covered. The main thing that I need direction on is maybe what you guys want to look at for catering, or if you want me to get some options and pricing and get back to you. I know that we wanna try to price stay local, and we have a couple restaurants here that could probably do catering. And we have a couple barbecue restaurants, we have Montez, we have La Hacienda, and then we have a newer restaurant that I did not call, but I can see if they do catering also. So I don't know if you guys had a specific direction you wanted to go with that, or if there's,
Is Taba handling the catering at their facility?
they're
Did we
doing
find out
everything.
what they're doing? So we wouldn't wanna do the same type of food, but
I don't know how far ahead they know. I can ask her though. I mean, I'll
or if we
find
decide
out.
what we're gonna do here and just tell them so that it's not the same time.
Yeah,
that'd be fine
Because they kind of made it seem like they really just kind of decide the week of what they're gonna provide. And they didn't really have a list of the exact things that they provide, they're just like, oh, whatever sounds good. So. I don't know if you guys had an opinion on that, or you might just get pricing and.
I have no
Come back.
opinions about it whatsoever. You know, we need some food to feed everybody so that they can have booze and have a good time.
Okay, so you wanna just get some options
A
and then
list
come
of
back with
pricing.
it and, okay.
That sounds smart.
Yeah,
We don't have a lot of options, so that's good. We have
Yeah.
a few,
Yeah.
and there's a done automatically. So, and then I've ordered a couple things for the door prizes, and I was gonna get some gift cards to Montez, to go along with them. Another thing is, I wasn't sure if you guys wanted them to be, do you want your logo and the EDC information, like the name of it, put on the items?
yes.
Yes.
That's all I need. We're good?
Anybody got anything else?
No,
Everything's
I
on
agree
track,
with you.
so. I sent out the, event to you guys through email.
Yeah.
To put on your calendars.
Hopefully you've got that on your calendars already. So I think it was August 6th and September 6th. or
August
August
2nd.
second, from 4 to 6, and September 6th, from 4 to 6.
Montez might be one of the better options, but it might be helpful when you talk to them that this is gonna be kind of some good advertising for their venue, because it's gonna be, you know, a presentation to all the local.
I don't know that they need it. They are so busy.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know if it'll do any good, but anyway, you know, if they're one little promotion, this is good for them too.
I need to get her.
I
my
think the
regular
biggest
email
thing
because-
is, making sure that it's on the books quickly, because
To know that,
as
so I can
short
get to the
staffed
phone
as most of these places are,
Getting
I think
emails to work.
the sooner we nail that down, the better, because, I think they may have a hard time meeting the demand.
Yeah, and, I know that at the TABA venue, they do, like, smaller portions, not like a full meal, and we wanna do the same thing at our event, correct?
Kind of heavy hors d'oeuvres kind of thing.
Yep. Alright, that's all I got.
Let them eat grapes. Okay, anything else on business after hours? Item 2, discuss and I can't talk. Discuss, consider, and authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with T.G. Mullins Consulting to assist the development of a vision and strategic plan for the short and long-term economic growth of the city. This is what we've been talking about for quite a while. For your benefit, we looked at this to start with, set it out for RFQ, and to create a big strategic plan for us. And the price tag was greater than the money we had in the bank. And we didn't really feel like financing that as an option. And we really don't need a 190-pound Bible to live by at this point.
Right.
We needed some bullet point guidelines and some goals and so forth. And so I think everybody's got in front of you the basics of the strategic plan consulting proposal that that he's presented for us with his price tag roughly on the back. So I guess we can entertain any discussions. Leslie, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, as you all know, Tom Mullins' experience with economic development in our region is unmatched, and he would be a great facilitator for this process, and staff recommends approval. Tentatively, I have him scheduled for the Friday before Memorial Day, so if y'all could look at your calendars. If you want to move forward with this, if we need to move that and reschedule, we can. So, don't mean to get ahead of motion to approve, but
That would be the 28th of May,
27th.
27th, whatever May. On a Friday.
And he'd be talking about this proposal.
We would be actually going through the scope of work on page 30, which would be developing kind of goals and action items, target industries, what we can do to accelerate BR&E, business retention, and expansion.
Works for me.
We would actually be developing the pieces of that strategic plan
Right.
on that date, if approved today.
And that meeting might go a little longer than just the normal hour.
So yeah, I would probably schedule for 8:30, 9 a.m. and
Yeah.
would probably go until, I don't know,
Whenever.
2 or 3-ish maybe.
Okay.
Just book a whole day.
Just plans for the whole day.
Pretty much.
But if that works for everybody and y'all wanna make a motion, I'll confirm with Mr. Mullins this afternoon.
I'm gonna jump in there, and even though I'm the president, I'm gonna make a motion to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement with T.G. Mullins Consulting.
Second. Okay.
Motion and a second.
Okay, I was not ready for that.
Not ready?
Jeez, okay. Charles and Maria?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Are we good?
We're good.
I'm gonna ask for a roll call. I never do that.
You just missed doing.
I just
roll
missed
call.
doing it.
This is interesting. Bob Breedlove?
Yes.
Charles Parker?
Yes.
Ernie LaFleur?
Yes.
Maria Davenport?
Yes.
Tom Trimble?
Yes.
And Jerry Akins?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that we unanimously authorized the city manager to execute the agreement with T.G. Mullins Consulting. Any further discussion on this item? In that case, we're gonna move on to item E, which is the fiber feasibility study update.
All right, at our last city council meeting, I think, Cobb Finley, the city's consultant in the fiber feasibility study, was present and presented some very high-level design information to the city council. And what they presented was basically a middle mile map of fiber install throughout the city, kind of looks like a backbone spreading out. And again, it's just a preliminary high-level design. So what they're working on now is looking at business plans, working with providers that are already in the area to see what's covered, what needs to be covered, what could be covered with fiber in the future. So we expect they will be back in front of council, hopefully their last meeting in May or early part of June. And basically the council is gonna have 3 options that they need to look at and consider. And the first one is a very passive approach to fiber and broadband in the city. Lay back and just kind of wait and see what the providers that are already here and are already planning to come here do, and just help facilitate that process. The second would be to help facilitate the middle mile projects that they have identified. And what that is just fiber backbone that providers would then do fiber to the home on their own. Or do we look at something like a managed service, which is where the city partners with providers and kind of white labels internet service. So we would in essence be an internet service provider, but we would have a company managing that for us. No, kind of very similar to how our trash contract works with Republic Services. So that's a very simplistic version of the decisions the council will be making in the next month or two. We do expect that we will continue to contract with Cobb Finley after this initial study is complete, because whatever route they choose, we will probably continue to need their technical expertise in this field. They have a very strong background in grant funding and maximizing funding opportunities for these types of projects, so we will probably continue to use them going forward. So,
That's exciting.
yeah.
Who are all the providers over here now?
Conterra, ETEX, Suddenlink, and I think that's
Cherokee County?
Cherokee County, but they just have a very small portion of the city. I think that's it as far as fiber providers.
Texas is not here.
Vexus isn't here yet. Vexus is talking about coming, but they're not here. They haven't done anything yet. But Conterra, ETEX, those two specifically are primarily along 110 and 346. And, you know, in our conversations with what are your plans to do residential, it was very vague and didn't give me a lot, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but didn't give me a lot of confidence that it was going to be coming anytime soon.
Those are the two, the East Tex and you're referring specifically to those two?
ETEX and Conterra. So I should have had that fiber backbone map up, but it basically creates a fiber ring around the city and some major trunk lines that continue down 346, Hagen Road, some of those, you know, more populous areas that then providers could branch off from, whether it's us, private providers, whatever that looks like. As we go forward, but until they start seeing some business plans and we start talking dollars, we don't know what option or route they're headed down. But they continue to make progress, so I've learned more about fiber than I ever wanted to know, and it's still not much.
It's an interesting business.
That's sure gonna help attract any of these people we're trying to get, for sure.
Yes.
It's almost needed as much as water, electricity, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
Those three things.
Yeah, we attended the State Broadband Development Office was doing a listening tour, and so Mayor Wansley and I and our consulting team attended that, and that was one of the comments that I made was, you know, broadband is no longer an amenity, it's a utility. And whether it's a city utility or a privately owned utility, it's a utility, and it's not a nice to have, it's a have to have. I mean, I counted up the number of devices just in our home, and it's crazy. I mean, the things that are connected to the internet
Right.
is just, it's ridiculous. My refrigerator is connected
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
internet, you know?
That's fancy.
Yeah, it's almost scary, it's almost scary. how
It's
much-
ridiculous, so I hate that
It's
refrigerator, but.
When you walk up to it and you can't open it because you've already had too many
Right.
calories.
Yeah.
It's got me locked out.
So,
I'm sure the council's thinking about it all, but the idea of actually getting into the full-blown servicing of it, with all the kind of customer complaints and demands that an organization like that has, to do that from ground zero, boy, that's almost a scary prospect.
it is, and the council is really coming from a place of frustration in that we don't have any say over the service level that our citizens receive. There's no competition, there's no, competitive pricing, and there's no guaranteed service level. And so that's where it all started from, as most of y'all know.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you know those frustrations as well as anybody. So how do we fix that, and what does it look like?
If you
What are
control that
interested in?
backbone, that probably gives you quite a bit of leverage.
It does give you leverage, so.
You're not necessarily dealing with the customer. That's a tough one.
We've discussed it in here quite a bit over the past. I'm glad the council's taking that
Yeah,
initiative, and it's not on us at this point. Okay, anything else on fiber feasibility study? Item 4, consider future agenda items. Obviously, we have the May 27th meeting that will have the strategic plan that we'll work on together. And then I think one of the things that we need to do is we need to begin getting prepared ourselves. So at one of the meetings, you need to bring your maps, Susan and Leslie, and let's look at the different parcels of properties around for residential and commercial.
Good.
And let's, you know, I mean, I know what they are, but I don't know that everybody else does. And we need to familiarize ourselves with it so that when we have our after-hours meeting, we can discuss these along with that. So I certainly think that would be beneficial to us. And so I'd kind of like to look at those properties and be able to discuss them in detail. What the challenges are, where the utilities are at, what the CCNs look like, where, you know, all of the, you know, utilities and whatever else are located. So, you know, we can talk about what we may have to do to make a piece of property developable. So,
Now, are you talking about properties that the city owns or that everybody owns, that are
I'm
just
talking
available?
These are private properties, but
That are
they are
available.
prime locations for acquisition or development.
Perfect.
Yeah, if there's anything we need to be talking up prior to that event, it'd be good to have.
Yeah,
have
that-
that, yeah.
So, I mean, I will share part of this. We did meet with Leslie and I and Susan and Stephanie, and Mayor Wansley all met with a developer last week who is considering some of the properties that we're looking at another housing development. But obviously I don't want to name names or any of that at this point because it would be very premature to do that, so.
So I think we'll also at least have part of that discussion in executive session. Mayor Wansley and I also met with a potential commercial developer that same day, and we also met with Scott Martinez from the Tyler EDC recently. So some of those things probably need to talk about in executive session.
Yeah.
I don't expect any action, but I think that discussion is worth having at this point. So.
Yeah, I agree. I would think that probably needs to be on the next agenda with
Yep.
executive sessions for various developments. The good news out of all of that is that I think between our meetings that we have planned, and if we go in with a good strategy with what we're looking at with that, and we're prepared by planning our meetings in preparation for it, with the folks kicking the tires around the city, I think we're in a really good place, and this could put us into the next level. I really do think so.
And I think we saw that pay off with the city's strategic plan, because that was well-defined, we had clear goals, we were able to move quickly on some things like purchasing 109 East Main, the lot next to it. The partnership that opened up with the school, I mean, it just kind of snowballed into what the council hoped it would be when they developed that plan, so.
So, anything else anybody has for the future agenda items? Obviously, we'll be talking about business after hours again and preparation for all of this.
This will probably kick off a lot of agenda time.
I'm thinking that's probably gonna add some to it, yes.
Can you, bring me up to date on what the after-hours event is supposed to accomplish?
Sure, so it is with the Tyler Area Builders Association, and we kind of started out with the goal of, Susan has done a lot of work to identify large undeveloped parcels in the city that we could look at for development in the future. So it's really just to kind of get in front of the builders, the members of the association, let them know we're here, let them know what we have, and, you know, hopefully kind of just keep us in mind when they look for their next project. So.
Art. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add other than that.
That'll be a good discussion.
Good discussion point. All right, item F, administrative reports. Looks like we got a sales tax snapshot. I guess you all saw the bank account balance, that was emailed out as part of the agenda. I mean, if you went online and looked at it, so.
Pretty good trend.
Pretty good.
20% up, sales tax on average is up 20% for fiscal year so far, which it was up last year and it was up the year before, so that's all great news. I thought you might be interested to see our top 10 sales taxpayers. This is a reporting service that we had used previously and had kind of stopped using, and we're back to using it now, just because I think, you know, as we head into really ramping up our economic development efforts and getting our strategic plan, I know Mayor Wansley has a goal of doing another sales tax election in the future to get more allocated to the EDC. So I felt like these reports would be helpful, and I just thought the top 10 sales taxpayers were interesting. Bob Breedlove and I were talking kind of before the meeting started. It'll be interesting to see how and if these change over the next year or 18 months with some of the commercial development that we have coming online with Triple J's, Whataburger, Starbucks. I'll be interested to see what happens. So.
I'm surprised to see the gas station across the street. Is that White Texas?
The number 10 White TX Fortune is the gas station across the street.
So there's no sales tax on gasoline.
No.
So they'll sell more out of that store than they are.
That's
lot of
probably
potato
the
chips.
number one beer seller in the city, I'm guessing.
Really?
On the way to the lake, everybody stops there. And all our city employees, no. I'm just
At lunch,
We do buy a lot of tacos at Yoli's, I will say that.
That was totally uncalled for. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
It is.
But what is Lilly Enterprises?
McDonald's.
Is that McDonald's? That's what I thought it was. But
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's McDonald's, Dollar General, Quality Lumber, Keystone Automotive, they do aftermarket auto parts.
Right.
Horizon is Proforma, Seabridge is Suddenlink.
Yeah, they're adding a lot of retail, so it's going to be interesting to see what that happens, how that shifts. And it's going to add a lot more dollars, I think.
Yeah, just hearing the sales estimates from Whataburger are exciting.
It's kind of wild.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions on that?
I will also add, we got our preliminary numbers on property taxes from Smith County Appraisal District. We had almost $26 million in new construction. Just to give you an idea, the year before was right at 23 million, and the year before that was at 10 million. So you want to talk about exponential increases there, and then of course our appraised values were up about 18%. So, as everybody who's gotten their
Everybody's seen
preliminary
that.
tax statement is aware, values are up. So we are starting to work on our budget and tax rate process, and we'll continue that through August 22nd is our deadline to adopt the tax rate. So Got some
Glad
great
I'm-
presentations prepared, Charles,
I
if
am
you wanna come
glad
here.
I am not on that deciding factor this year. I mean, judging by what happened with some school bonds that I saw around, you know, I'd say the attitude of the average voter out there is,
I don't wanna spend more.
I don't wanna spend no more money.
Yeah, when I was talking to the council the other night, you know, we all feel that frustration, right? We're all homeowners and we're paying the same increased grocery bills and gas bills and everything else. The problem is that the city has to buy stuff too, and our prices are up just as much as everybody else's. And with what's happening in public safety, or more specifically law enforcement, and what we are having to pay to recruit and retain officers, probably far exceeds inflation amounts. And so we feel that struggle too, and we try to do our best to be great stewards of the taxpayer dollars and still provide great service at the same time.
And that's why it's so important to have an EDC, I'm gonna tie that back in, so that we can continue to grow that tax base. And, you know, for your benefit, I was, you know, several years ago, I began a major push to build rooftops in the city, because I felt like that if we had the rooftops, that retail would follow. And so far, that's absolutely proving to be the case. And so, you know, what I would like to see us do is continue to add those rooftops, because I think that even speaks for more retail. And but unfortunately, when you add more rooftops and more people, that also expands your need for police and fire and infrastructure and all the other things that go with that. So, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword, but the other goal is that by spreading out the tax base to more people, eventually you start getting a lowering effect. And we haven't really seen that yet, but at some point out there, you start feeling that a little bit. So,
How many
Start
officers?
getting out of debt, that helps.
yeah, you start getting out of debt, and you start doing some of those kind of things, and that's how you know, it just takes time, but you gotta have the growth
To push that.
to push that.
How many officers are you trying to add?
2 police officers and 2 firefighters.
It's hard to compete with the ESD on salaries too.
Yes, it is. The ESD for fire, or, you know, Smith County or City of
Smith
Tyler
County,
for
yeah.
law enforcement. So,
Yeah, I know, I just heard.
but we're the best city to work for, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I know Tyler's trying to add, I think 9 or 10 new police officers.
It's the best city to live in.
Living, working,
Working.
playing, it doesn't matter. Shopping.
Inside the city limits, we have one of the lowest crime rates in all of East Texas, maybe in the state of Texas. So it's a very safe place to be. I mean, yeah, we get some kids that play with car doors once in a while, but
If you lock them,
if you like them, that sure helps.
Play with what?
car doors.
Oh,
We had,
They go down the street, and if your car's out there, they try to open it. If you leave it unlocked, they're gonna.
And your purse inside.
And your purse
Yeah.
inside, or your
Right.
gun, or whatever. So,
we had about 9 cars broken into in one night,
One of
all unlocked.
the guys I work with was complaining about his car being stolen, and truck was attached to the car. The boat was attached to his truck, and he left the keys and everything in it.
Oh, my
And they just took the truck, boat, everything.
Oh.
Gone.
And there's really,
and he was
Your
happy about the
sign.
boat and sad about his truck.
there's really very little, you know, from the law enforcement perspective, that's hard to stop. I mean,
Yeah.
you just can't, driving down the road, you can't see people if they're hiding between cars or in front of a car. People have got to lock their doors, got to lock their doors.
Well, I'll say this.
That's why I park in the garage, because I can't remember.
And I lock my car in the garage and close the door and lock the door.
I'll say this, you know, every night the police drive through my neighborhood and I get the bright spotlight on my house at least 2 to 3 times a night. And
What did you do?
They just do that to you, Charles.
I'm beginning to feel personal about it. but- Yeah,
I don't get that, and I live closer to them than you do.
They must be trying to get some material on it.
I didn't realize I was being targeted.
Sure what that says about you, it doesn't about your house.
They drive down my street and that spotlight's just going.
Good.
Hey, I
That's
love
good
it.
then.
I love it. Well, I live in a high-risk neighborhood. So, anything else on reports? Anything else you want to talk about with regard to that?
I heard today that Starbucks, the interior finish out people have a goal to be finished in 9 weeks from Monday, so that's about the middle of July.
Oh, wow.
Whataburger Triple J's has started some foundational plumbing rough in stuff.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yep. So those projects are continuing.
I read something in one of the documents about an incentive that y'all were planning to discuss for one of the businesses you're trying to attract. And I was just curious about the incentives you offer, if it's a desirable business.
So we do any kind of state allowed incentive that's out there. I'm not sure which one you're referring to. I know the council considered one at their last meeting because it was related to utility infrastructure. But I can't.
It was something, maybe it was on the last minutes about within a closed session about a company, and so, I just wondered if you were,
Probably city council,
it may have been city
Yeah,
council.
I bet it
and
was.
that was probably the
Yeah.
one you just talked about for the infrastructure.
And because they didn't come out and say anything publicly, I can't say what that is yet.
Sure.
But it's related to utility infrastructure. So, yeah, we're open to discussing abatements or sales tax rebates,
Sure,
property
yeah.
tax rebates, anything that's allowed by
Right.
law. I think we would consider for the right kind of business.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would even consider business loans and whatever else that might be part of that as well. But again, I think the big part of determining where we're going with that is gonna be as a result of what we put together in terms of the strategic
Sure,
plan.
of course, yeah.
And I think that's gonna narrow our focus. And as I've told this group a dozen times, is that, there's a great big huge umbrella that could be a type B and all the different things that you can do with it. And I mean, it's a broad spectrum. We can't fund the broad spectrum, and that would be unrealistic to even consider that. So we need to narrow our focus and determine exactly what we're going to work on and what our priorities are gonna be. And then what exceptions to that we're going to allow, because we can't operate like we're fired out of a shotgun and have a big old spread pattern out here. We're not gonna be effective. We need to drill down into some primary areas and focus on that. And I mean, at least that's my opinion, but again, having the strategic workshop with Tom Mullins and his expertise, I think we'll ferret out those kind of discussions and figure out what we're gonna do. And that's, and so if we're gonna do business loans or, 380 agreements or, whatever else is out there, we need to have a pretty clear understanding of what that's gonna look like and where it's gonna go.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. You're kind of getting in on the ground floor.
Yeah.
We're starting to get things
Yeah.
going. And, it's a credit to our city staff and to Leslie and how she's developed our teams and moved everything forward, because I can tell you it wasn't this way a decade ago. And, many things of this city has changed since then. And it's not the same place that it used to be. It's in a really good place.
Good job.
Thanks. We have a great group of people here that keep us moving forward, so keep me on track.
So, anything else? If there's nothing else, the time is 12:53 and we are adjourned. Very good.
Thank you.
So you know I was late, we finished early.
Look at that.